What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Spencer, this is Pixel and Bracket, and in this video we're going to be cutting out an image with text. I'll also show you how to cut out an image with the new and improved Select Subject feature in Photoshop. This video is sponsored by Skillshare, an online community where millions of creatives take that next step in their creative journey. Now, there's a link in the description and in the top comment where you can get 2 free months of premium Skillshare. It's only $10 per month with an annual subscription after that. But we'll get more into Skillshare later in the video. For now, let's hop into this tutorial about how to cut out a photo with text and maybe make something cool. All right, so you've probably seen something like this before, and this is the final effect that we're gonna be doing. I'm gonna go ahead and group all of this together really quick, if I can hit anything other than right click. And we're just gonna hide all of that to start. So I would create a rectangle. There's a rectangle tool over here. Just create it larger than your canvas. And then what you can do is just double click on the thumbnail of the rectangle and you can select your color. I picked 0E, 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 which is just a, not fully black, but it's kind of that charcoal, pretty dark color. Now I'm gonna go ahead and bring in my image. So I'm gonna go down to File or go up to File, Place Embedded. So as we navigate through, I'll just find my image here and I'm gonna place it into my document. Now it's gonna sort of scale it so it's top and bottom here so it shows the full image. That's okay. We're gonna select and cut it out and then we'll scale it up after that. So if I hit enter, it's gonna place that image in there. And this little icon here means it's a smart object. Smart objects are great. It means that we can apply effects that are editable. It's non-destructive. And Photoshop now has remembered the full quality of this image. So as you're working in Photoshop, if you scale things down, scale things up, they can get pixelated if they're not smart objects. This one is, so we're good to go. All right, so first thing I'm gonna do here, Select Subject has gotten so much better. So if I go up to my drop-down Select, go down to Subject, it's gonna look at my layer and try to pick out the subject matter of that layer, generally a person that's within your photo. It's doing a great job these days. To apply a mask with that selection, I go down here in my layers panel and I can just add a mask. Now there might be some little pieces that you might need to go in and edit. I would just double click on the mask. It's gonna take us into the select and mask view. Whole set of properties on the right, a couple tools on the left. You might notice some spots that don't work as well. For this tutorial specifically, that's okay because they're gonna fall off to black. But if you need to refine or use the Refine Edge brush tool, some areas you can do that. We'll do one little area down here, Command or Control to zoom in. And I see that on the cheek there, it probably grabbed a little extra. I'm gonna hold Option or Alt if you're on PC and sort of just click and drag down this way. Now I'm fine with that because a lot of this is gonna be hidden in our design. So I'm gonna hit OK and we're done editing that mask. You can also paint directly on that mask layer. If you just select the mask, grab your brush tool, shortcut key is B, and then paint in black or white. Black is going to hide the image, white is gonna bring the image back. Okay, so we've got our image in here and we've got it cut out. I'm gonna go ahead and scale it up a little bit, make sure that layer is selected, Command or Control T, and we're gonna grab a corner here and probably hold Shift, and I'm gonna hold Option or Alt as well to scale it up from the center. And we're gonna make this pretty large, almost like hair to chin on our document. Something like that works right there. Okay, so now we're gonna have 2 versions of this photo in our document. So let's duplicate this layer by holding Option and clicking and dragging down. You'll see the double arrows. That means we're duplicating it down. And so now we have two versions of this. This one on the bottom, I'm gonna put into a group so I can add another mask onto it. So we're gonna go down here, there's a little folder icon. The shortcut key for that is Command or Control G. And when you have multiple items selected, it'll put them all right into a group for you, but when you only have one selected, you might need to click and drag that into the group. So we can minimize the group like this, and what we can do here is add another mask. And with this mask, if we use our selection tool in the upper left-hand corner of our screen there, We could just create a selection that's about half of our subject's face here. Once we have that selection created, just click that mask button again. And now we've got a mask here. If we hide the layer that's above, you'll notice that we've got this mask that's over half of the face. The whole thing here is going to be in black and white. So I'm going to build an adjustment layer on top of everything that's going to be black and white. We're going to go to Adjustments. And if you don't have this panel, go up to Window, down to Adjustments, and you'll see it pop out. And there's this little black and white filter right here, or adjustment layer. We're going to create that over the top of everything. So anything underneath that adjustment layer is going to be black and white. So from here, what I'm going to do is just add my text in. And what I want to do is click T, or press T. That's the type tool. It's over here in your toolbar. For this one, I'm going to click and drag to create a text box on my document, just like that. And it may or may not, depending on what version you're in, fill it in with some lorem ipsum. That's fine. So here's where you're going to type whatever you want to type for your photo. I just picked out like a quick quote, and I'll just copy paste that in here. And you may need to tweak this a little bit, like scale this text box out or in to get your perfect fit. And even after that, I would recommend, if something's not looking right, just go ahead and bump it down a line, Work with this to get the text looking the way you want it to look. Now I can bring this text box up till it's right underneath my text right there. And then if I go click on this move tool, I can scale this text up or down by pressing Command or Control T for transform, and then sort of scaling it. Be careful, make sure you hold Shift so it locks it into place. And we can scale it up just like that. And then the other thing we can do, and hit Enter to commit that text, is press Command or Control A to select everything. And then our layers, as long as we have our selection tool over here, or our move tool selected, our alignment panel pops up here. And I'm going to click this one to align it to the center. It barely moved it. You probably didn't even see that, but it will align it to the center. And if you think, because text is kind of weird with alignment, if you think it's a little off, you can use your arrow keys to bump that layer up and down. Okay, so what we have here now is another half of our photo right here, and then the words. I'm going to put the photo on top of the text, just like that. And then I'm going to hold, this is the most important part, I'm going to hold Option or Alt in between these two layers and create a clipping mask with my photo and my text. This is what is cutting out, essentially, the photo into the shape of your text. Now there's a couple things that we're probably going to need to do here is in regards to like editing this image to make the text more readable, to make the face really fall off into the black. So the first thing I'm going to want to do is probably add an adjustment layer up top here where this black and white adjustment layer is, and it's going to be a curves adjustment layer. And this one's going to affect everything below it. So I want to go ahead and bring the darkest parts of the image down a little bit. So the left side of this is all your blacks, and the right side is going to be all the whites. So if you click and pull this up, the highlights are going to get brighter. Over here, darkness, or the darker sections of your image are going to get darker. Now, maybe I don't want this curve to be over the top of everything. So I'm going to drag it down so it's only over the top of the right half of the face, this side over here. I'm going to do the same thing here. You can actually lock in or use clipping masks with adjustment layers as well. I'm going to clip that to this group layer so it does not affect the background layer. Up here, though, I am going to add another curves adjustment to strictly this image. And we're going to go ahead and clip it, holding Option or Alt. So we're clipping it to only that image. And what I want to do with this one is actually pull up the darkest parts of the image. Notice how in the text, some of this gets very, very dark here. I'm going to pull that up a little bit so we can read it a little bit better. And even the point over here to the far left, the darkest point, we're going to pull that up as well. So what we're doing here is just trying to make this a little bit more legible. And I'm going to make sure that it doesn't clip up here and pull those down a little bit. So just kind of tweak with that until it's legible. You can add as many points as you want to this, and you can pull down sections, the midtones. Because we're working with black and white, you can do a lot with the image and really retain it. And because it's inside of that text, you don't really see everything that's going on, and it does look normal, even if it's blown out or the shadows aren't dark enough. Another thing that we can do here is if we feel like we want to move the face around a little bit. If I drop down this bottom group, I've got this image and I've got this image here, and together they make the face, and we don't want to move them separately from each other. So I'm going to hold Command or Control and click on both of these two layers so that I can move them together. Now if I use that move tool, look, I can just move this around. So what we're going to do is Command or Control Z to put that back, Command or Control T, transform, and we can do the same thing, just hold Shift and Option or Alt and sort of bring this up and down until you feel like you've got it positioned to where you want. I kind of want to see the eye on the left side of this as well. So I think something like this is pretty good here because we can see the eye, we can tell that the image is crossing over. Now, one thing you could do here is you don't necessarily have to have the image that's cutting out into the text have that same mask. So maybe look at removing the mask on that one. Just by holding Shift on this mask, you can hide it for a second or bring it back. So what it's doing is it's not cutting out this image anymore. So what's outside of her face on the image itself is showing through onto the text. You can kind of decide what you like best in regards to how this looks. We could bring that back, and what we could do, since this is so bright out here and it kind of looks weird when it is masked, is that we can change the text color. That's exactly what this is. Where it crosses over her face is just the text color. So if I press T and have my type layer selected, I can go up here and adjust my text color to be whatever I want. So it could be darker if you want it to be darker. It could be brighter. You could even make it, well, since it's underneath the black and white layer, it's not going to be a color. But if you wanted to, you could adjust your layers so that you could bring that color in. So depending on how you want this all to really look, you can make any sort of these adjustments to your image, to your quote, to the lightness, to the darkness, using those curve layers, and different adjustment layers. One thing I might do is maybe pull that back a little bit and let some of the shadows show through a little bit there so that the left side of the image looks a little bit better. But that is pretty much it. Now, if you find yourself staring at a blank canvas and you're not really sure where to start, maybe you've created so many tutorials on YouTube, or you've run out of projects in your class, or maybe you even have a project. I run into this all the time, and I'm staring at that blank canvas. I just have no idea where to even start. I recommend a class on Skillshare called 8 Exercises to Power Your Creativity, Confidence, and Career. In this class, you'll learn things like how to embrace your weirdness, how to make rules within your creativity or your projects. It gives you advice on sharing your work and giving yourself a break, all to help you break through that creative block. I found this class really great at helping you think outside the box on ways that you can get started on your projects. There are thousands of classes on Skillshare, whether it's breaking through that creative block or it's graphic design, learning more about it, learning more about art, or even creating your own merch. There are so many classes that you can take, and you can take them for free, the first 1,000 of you, by clicking the link in the description or the top comment on this video to get that 2 free months of premium Skillshare. I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial that we did today. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. I'll be sure to be back on here more often with lots more content for you guys. I'm Spencer from Pixel and Bracket, and I'll see you next time. Hey, this is me from after the tutorial. I forgot to show you one thing, so we're gonna pop this open again. And okay, so on the side of the face here that you can see, the right side of the face, you see that one right there? One thing I wanted to talk to you about is to get this, because I'm sure you're gonna be using all sorts of different photos and things. To get this side of the face to fall off into the black a little bit more, we need to add a little bit of like a bit of a gradient on the mask itself. So if I click on this mask and use that paintbrush tool and get like a really large brush with 0 hardness, Make sure it's on black. I'm painting black. You'll notice, and I'll click on her face first here, that I can create like a bit of a gradient, right? A bit of a fall off. Okay, that was too much. I'm gonna undo that a little bit. But if I click way out here, I can really get some more fall off. So like I can make sure the hair completely falls off. So depending on how well your cutout is, you might want to add a little bit of this so it blends into the background a little bit more. So you can do as much or as little as you want. Obviously, if you do too much, that might not look so hot. But if you have a little bit to clean up on this side, especially like up in the hair, and I'm gonna undo a little bit more to get that ear to show back up a little bit. We did way too much. Yeah, you can just do that up in the hair a little bit, maybe down here on the cheek, etc. So if you have some things on the side of the face there, you can go back in and add some masking, some like feathering, we'll call it feathering, in there to help fade that face into the background. Never done this before where I added something at the end after everything, but if you stayed for this, you learned a little bit more. Thanks for watching, guys. Sorry I forgot that part in the tutorial, and I hope the whole thing made sense. See you next time.